Hi everybody and welcome back to the Keto Guy Kitchen. It's great you can join me here today and thank you so much for sharing this time with me. In this video I'm going to be talking about eating real food. And even if you're unsure about whether keto and low carb is right for you right now, real food can still be a game changer in terms of health and wellness, and I'm going to explain why. It's also a great starting point for anybody who wants to move to keto and low carb but is feeling that the move away from a processed diet to keto seems like a really big step to take all at once. And to let you into a little secret, that's how I went keto. So I started off by moving on to real food, then FODMAP, then low carb, and then keto. So let's get going with this video about eating real food. I find it fascinating how through evolution the human body has found ways to survive, to preserve the species. And we've done this by becoming incredibly adaptable to ensure that we can survive no matter what our environment, because that way our DNA is passed on to the next generation. Survival of the individual meant continuity of our species, and over time we've become experts at this. Through millennia, our bodies seem to have understood and found a connection with the food growing and living in our environment. Our bodies came to recognise and absorb nutrients in the foods around us, and we learnt how to turn those into the building blocks we needed to survive. You could say we're the ultimate survival experts. Part of that expertise involved being able to store nutrients. Our ancestors didn't have fridges or access to a continuous stream of food, and so the body came up with the ingenious way of taking our energy with us, storing it in the cells of our body for future use. We became a larder, a kitchen, and an energy conversion system. We stored energy because food was hard to come by. Storage in times of scarcity. The human brain is programmed to read and support our human larder system by ensuring that when we see an abundance of food, we make the most of it, just in case it becomes scarce. And once the mindset of scarcity is matched with the cellular scarcity, we can't seem to switch off that drive to eat. This point is crucial because once you apply that to food choices, you can begin to see how important the food we eat is to the way our body stores energy. So in some ways, it's strange that in the modern world, storage of energy is seen by many as something negative, whereas our body sees storage of energy as a mechanism for survival. Nowadays, we want to live in a body with minimum storage. We don't want a larder system, yet the industrial foods we eat are designed to do just that. Despite an abundance of food, we're compelled to continue looking for nutrition. And therein lies the disconnect between the way the body continues to act as a larder, the way the brain continues to seek out nutrition, and the food choices we make. You could not have a more precision engineered way of getting the human body to consume vast amounts of food on a mass scale than processed foods. It really is the perfect cellular storm. Every cell of our body has a job, and each cell is part of a system, and each system is part of a self-regulating process we call homeostasis. The role of homeostasis is to make sure that your and my 37 trillion cells are all working to keep the body functioning 24/7. You can put a human being into a tropical rainforest or the Arctic tundra, and the human body will learn to adapt and thrive so it can do what it does best, pass its genes on for the next generation. So you have to wonder under what circumstances the human body would have to be exposed to in order for those 37 trillion cells not to adapt and thrive. Well, you know, we're living in it. It's the modern processed world. A recent study showed that low nutrition diets result in a low sperm count. 68 million fewer sperm to be exact, compared with men who ate a less processed diet. And that means fewer chances of passing on the DNA. Lots of us find being engaged and productive on a processed diet is really tough. We give little thought to how what we eat becomes how we function, and increasingly our mental and physical health suffer under the stress and pace of modern life. We find it difficult to convert modern food into a productive day's work. Lack of energy, brain fog, low mood. We have traded in sustainable, beneficial nutrition for immediate energy. Bowls of sugary cereal at breakfast time, bars of sugar and processed foods at lunch, and chemically coated pieces of food for dinner. For our ancestors, getting enough food was the issue, lack of available food. They would have been used to spending large parts of their days searching for food, finding themselves in that situation sometimes for days on end. That life must have been really tough. It's no surprise, given the way our ancestors lived, that the human body evolved to create a way of surviving a tough situation. We had to be able to keep going even through the tough times. And the only thing we had to rely on was our body's ability to somehow find a way of ensuring we survived our environment. Faced with a tough situation, the body does an incredible thing. It recycles and repurposes what it already has to create what it needs. Well, almost all of what it needs. We have evolved to go from times of abundance to scarcity, and to be able to move almost seamlessly between those two states. Restock, empty, recycle, restock. The mechanisms which drive us to restock haven't changed. But that mechanism doesn't work well with processed foods, which is high in energy but low in nutrition. Recycling is all around us, from the stars we see in the sky to the grass under our feet. It's also a connection to our ancestors' way of life. And yet when it comes to the sort of recycling our DNA understands, we seem to have turned off the tap. We're so adamant that we just need to eat sugar to get energy, that the whole purpose of our body's ability to recycle stored energy has become redundant. Yet our brains still register scarcity. Whilst the recycling has been turned off, the storage hasn't. The recycling I'm talking about is so mind-blowing, so incredible, that you might think it was science fiction. And yet it's how we as a species have lived and thrived for hundreds of thousands of years. But given the opportunity, it's as relevant to our metabolic health today as it was thousands of years ago. And it's how I and many like me thrive in a modern world. We are in an environment of nutrient scarcity in a context of food abundance, yet we've found a way to adapt, not in an evolutionary sense, well that would take generations, but in a sense of foods we choose to eat and the way we approach eating for health. That message of recycling seems to have got lost in translation in the way modern food is processed. It's also been conveniently overlooked as being an essential part of how our bodies have evolved. Processed foods are produced in a way that our brains find it hard to recognise as being the full complement of nutrition that we need. Plus, processed food gets the balance of nutrients wrong. Energy slows as the body's completely focused on filling and storing instead of accessing and recycling. And now it seems that our 37 trillion cells have more connections to the local supermarket or food processing plants than they do to the world around us. This is because processed food is addictive. Processed grains, sugars and seed oils all turn on the brain receptors which lead to addictions. We may have been sold the idea that a quick bite to eat is harmless, but these processed foods are continually working against us and, more importantly, the health issues. It's so easy to become addictive to highly processed foods. So if you've watched my other videos, you know that keto is about choosing real food over processed food. And at its heart, it really is that simple. This is because our bodies instinctively know how to recognise, use and repurpose real food. Choosing real food is the very best place to start, and it's the basis of change, moving from a processed environment back to one which is recognised by the body as being something it can work with, to function better and to do as nature intended, to recycle.